When we are simplifying radicals, we need to write the radicand, the number under the radical sign, as the product of at least one perfect square factor. And this may take more than one step. I can identify that this one is the square root of 400 times 3, where 400 is a perfect square. And then I can say that the square root of 1200 is the square root of 400 times the square root of 3. Those are equivalent. And the square root of 400 is just 20 radical 3. 3 is not a perfect square. It has no perfect square factors, so I am done. If I weren't able to immediately identify 403, I could write this as even just, let's say, 4 times 300. And I would say that that equals the square root of 4 times the square root of 300. Square root of 4 is 2. I wouldn't be done yet. 2 radical 300. 300 still has a perfect square factor. 300 is 3 times 100. So 2 radical 300 is 2 radical 3 radical 100. The square root of 100 is 10. I'm going to change the order a bit. So my final answer is 2 times the square root of 100, which is 10 radical 3. My final answer is still 20 radical 3. So whether or not I immediately identified that 400, that's preferable because look how much faster that was. But it's okay if I just saw the 4 first. I would just need to realize that I need to keep going. This one's a little easier. I keep my coefficient. 10 times the square root of 12. 12 is just 4 times 3. That means this is 10 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 is 2. 10 times 2 radical 3 is my final answer, or 20 radical 3 is the fully simplified form. 48 is 16 times 3. Keep that negative. Square root of 16 times the square root of 3. My final answer is negative 4 radical 3. If I didn't see the 16 and I instead saw 12 times 4, that would be okay. I'd have square root of 12, square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. I want that 2 in front. I would just need to realize that I am not done yet. 12 can be written as the product of 4 and 3. So negative 2 radical 4 radical 3 is negative 2 times 2 because the square root of 4 is 2 radical 3. I get the same simplified answer, negative 4 square root of 3. Variables is not something we're covering a lot. You will cover that in future math classes. But the square root of x squared is just x. X times x is x squared. So I just need to worry about this 18. 18 is 9 times 2. So I have the square root of 9, square root of 2, square root of x squared. That gives me a 3. Square root of 9 is 3. Radical 2x. So my final answer is 3x radical 2. You may have noticed that I'm not giving you plus or minus 20 radical 3. Plus or minus 20 radical 3. Whoa, those are the same. I'm not saying somehow plus or minus here. When I am given the square root on my paper, I'm just being asked to give the principal root, the positive root, the positive one. Let's just do one more example. 75 is 25 times 3. That means the square root of 75 is the square root of 25 times the square root of 3, which is just 5 radical 3.